The next morning, the trio arrive at the kingdom, where John is greeted with a hero's welcome. Everyone is surprised to see that John has returned from his mission alive, which only fuels the king's growing resentment towards him. Despite this, the king is compelled to reward him one more time. Later that night, John confides in full about his feelings for the Empress and decides to visit her. He takes some flowers and climbs up to her window, but their reunion is cut short when some courtiers enter with clothes for her to wear. After a while, the Empress finally meets the king and gets displeased to learn that he's the age of her father. Outside, John becomes jealous upon seeing the two together. The king wants to marry the Empress the very next day, but she is reluctant. In order to delay it, she mentions that it is her family heritage to get married with a special ring. But sadly, the ring was lost in the ocean. Hearing this, the king becomes enraged, and so he sends John on yet another impossible task. That same night, as Foal ponders John's erratic behavior, he sees the spirit of a whale soaring through the sky. Foal speaks with the sun, moon, and wind, and learns that the ring is inside the belly of a giant whale, which has now turned into an island. In the early hours of the day, John and Foal set off on a journey to the whalefish, only to find her bound by chains. Foal manages to communicate with the whale and learns that she was put in this state by some sailors as a punishment. Her crime? She devoured several ships for fun. At that time, she was young and naive, but now she regrets her actions. Soon after, the whale sheds a tear, which gives John an idea to make her sneeze and break free from the chains. So, they ride into the whale's nostrils and tickle its interior with the tip of Foal's feathers. The plan works, and the large mammal starts struggling to itch itself. In the process, it breaks free of all its chains, and also releases the trapped ships after decades. The whale then rewards John and Foal the precious ring as a gesture of thanks. In the next scene, the two make their way back to the Empress's window to deliver the ring. However, their presence does not go unnoticed, as guards and a courtier spot them through a scope and rush to capture John. The commotion wakes the king, who grabs his gun and rushes to the window. Seeing Foal, the king shoots him without hesitation. On the other hand, the guards storm into the bedchamber and arrest John, falsely accusing him of kidnapping the king maiden. After this, the king gets ready to marry the Empress, but in order to buy more time, she demands that he rejuvenate himself through a recipe passed down from her grandmother. She requires him to bathe in 3 cauldrons, one filled with boiling water, the second with ice water, and the third with boiling milk. The plan is a clever one, but it results in even deeper problems for John. Sensing that it may be a trap, a courtier advises the king to test the cauldrons on John before subjecting himself to the process. At night, the Empress secretly confides in Foal that she knows how to nullify the effect of the boiling contents. She reveals that throwing her grandmother's ring in the first cauldron, a feather from the firebird into the second, and the flower of life and death that grows at the end of the world in the third cauldron will cancel out the deadly effects. Wait a sec, that third one sounds kinda hard to find. She claims that John's survival hinges on their success in executing this plan. Foal, who was injured by the gunshot earlier, knows that it is a treacherous mission that may result in his demise, but for the sake of his best friend, he sets out to find the flower. Since he cannot fly anymore, he uses his lightning speed to travel to the end of the world. Foal eventually finds the flower, but it warns him that whosoever plucks it will be awaiting death. Despite the ominous warning, Foal plucks the flower to save John. In the morning, the king hypocritically declares that he is giving John a chance at redemption and orders him to jump into the cauldrons. The latter believes that he is about to die, so he bravely professes his love for the Empress. He then jumps into the boiling water, and at the same time, the Empress successfully throws the ring into the first cauldron, helping John emerge unharmed. In the second cauldron, the firebird drops a feather, keeping John safe once again. Meanwhile, Foal manages to deliver the flower just in time for John to be saved in the third and final cauldron. After successfully completing his rejuvenation, John appears before the Empress, who is amazed at his transformation. The king is also shocked and believes that the recipe actually makes people younger, so he jumps into the first cauldron. But as soon as he does so, a huge bubble emerges and carries him away inside of it. The people of the kingdom only laugh at his misfortune and instead start chanting for John.
"The king is an asshole! Throw him in the milk!"
Meanwhile, the Empress and John notice that Foal is missing, so they start searching for him. They soon find him sitting patiently, waiting for his death, as he had plucked the flower. However, the Empress reveals that the flower's warning was simply a test to assess the bravery of the person who picked it. She could have told him that before he left. She also clears that if Foal had not plucked it, he would actually have died. But now he won't. Hearing this, Foal delightfully gets up and hugs his best friend. In the final scene, the crowd cheers for Jon, demanding that he become the new king. He happily accepts and vows to protect the kingdom with all his might. The movie ends as Jon and the Empress finally get married and take over the kingdom as the newly crowned king and queen. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.